Away, ay, 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 ay. Away up, away up, ay, 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 ay. Ay, 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 ay. Away, ay, 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 ay. Away, ay, 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 ay.
Hello, welcome back to the second hour of The Bridge with Kira. I hope you enjoyed the conversation that I had with Angelo about this water protection camp in Flint. And it's funny that his organization is called Withstand with Wolves because I had also planned to have my next guest on who is rescuing wolves. So we had and it wasn't even planned that this wolf theme. So pretty cool stuff here. So let's get our friend Azlan White into the conversation here, and we'll learn all about her organization and what she's doing.
Hello.
Hi, Azlan. It's Kira. Welcome to the bridge. Did I say your name correctly?
Yes, you did. Thank you.
All right. Well, we unintentionally have this little wolf theme going because my last guest has an organization called Withstand with Wolves, and it's really doesn't seem to have anything to do with wolves except for maybe the wolf spirit of community, and they have a very complex social structure that people really don't understand. So maybe we'll get into that in a little bit. But I did want to find out from you how you ran into this group of wolves, and are they wolf dogs as well, or maybe hybrids? Some of them, or
they're hybrids.
Okay.
And however, for me, being someone who hadn't really had a lot of contact with wolves myself, of course I've met dogs, but I hadn't really met the wolf. I hadn't met a wolf really intimately or known their behavior very well. So I met a wolf. I met this mother red wolf. And at that time in my life, this was about 4 or 5 years ago, and I had just left the Women's Congress for Future Generations. And at the Women's Congress for Future Generations, they asked us to ask, predator species and animals in meditation what they needed for their future generations. So I sat with women and I asked, and I was doing this work. Little did I know that might be like a precursor to actually meeting a wolf and getting more deeply involved. So that did happen. And in my encounter with her, at first she was just hanging around me and, not really engaging, just sleeping at the base of a tree. And I just thought she was beautiful. But then at some point we got more bonded and were hanging out more together. And then she stared into my eyes and she literally spoke to me and flashed images in front of me. And her message was so passionate and filled with emotion from her. Like, what is this highway system, and why are people on top of us, and why can't I have my family, and why can't I have my puppies, and why are all my puppies taken from me? And she was angry and she was passionate, and she wanted her life. She wanted to run without a highway. She wanted to have animal control stop stalking her. She was like staring at me like, what is this? Why are all these people, chasing me all the time?
Mm.
So that went into my being like I just received it all, and I just wanted to give her sanctuary. My response on a visceral, emotional level was pretty instant. Like, well, I'll give you space. I'll hold space for you. I'll let you have your puppies. I won't take them all away. I'll let you have the space to run. I'll do whatever I can, was my response. And then that began the adventure.
So this mother, is this mother a pure wolf, or is she also a hybrid? Or
she was a pure red wolf, and I don't have her anymore. That was in Mount Shasta, and she ended up eating a chicken. I had just moved to Mount Shasta from Dunsmuir, where I had adopted her from her previous owner, who had just gotten tired of having to deal with animal control and having to deal with her always escaping because she couldn't be contained.
Mm-hmm.
She just could literally escape out of anything. So nobody even tried anymore to contain her. But she wasn't so bad when she would escape. In the area we were when I found her, it's the town of Dunsmuir, just below Mount Shasta. So it's a tiny town in a huge, vast wilderness area. So as far as the space, the town covered very little of it, and it was mostly wilderness. So it seemed appropriate that she would be allowed to be free. The bar, the gas station loved having her visit. She became, kind of a member of the town, and people really loved her. So it was very sad, actually, that animal control in that area wouldn't allow her to have that life, because I think a lot of people enjoyed her there.
Mm-hmm. So they were just afraid that she would hurt somebody here.
I'm not sure. I think it's the ranchers are afraid that she'll eat a chicken, honestly. It's about her eating chickens.
That she'll act like a predator that she is and get herself some food. See?
Yeah. That's where the trouble really does come in for real, is with the chickens. I have never seen a wolf, in my experience, try to eat something larger than a chicken, livestock, but they do go for the chickens sometimes, if they're accessible, especially.
Mm-hmm. So that's what got her in trouble? That's what got her taken away? Or
it is. It was her eating a chicken, and then they arrived at my house, and I had her in my car, and I was about to take her up to the Mountain Shasta, because that's what I did, is I would take her up there so she could run free, because I wasn't intending to let her run free around my neighborhood. On that particular day, the man who helped me was holding her leash, and she didn't like leashes, clearly. She was not good with them, and she just got to a place where she wasn't going to move, and then he took the leash off and let her go, and that was the day she ate the chicken. But after that, I had her in my car. The animal control showed up, and they told me I had to put her in their car so that they could bring her to the farmer who had lost the chicken to ID her, to see if she was the one that had eaten the chicken. And these chickens were free range. They were not even in a pen. They were free ranging on this person's land, probably maybe a mile or two from where I was. So I asked if I could drive her, because she was afraid of she didn't like to be contained or with a lot of people. So the sheriff showed up and told me that I was not allowed to drive her myself, that I had to carry her to the animal control vehicle and load her. And that was a very sad moment, because they couldn't catch her on their own. She was uncatchable to them. She was too wild. She wouldn't come near them. And so once I had her, they were able to, I had to, under gunpoint, basically, load her into their car. He didn't have a gun, but that was the kind of attitude he had, that it wasn't, I didn't have a choice. So after I loaded her into their vehicle, I never was able to get her back. It was an extremely corrupt system, in my opinion. That particular government and that particular animal control, in my opinion, was extremely corrupt. And so it was not, I didn't have a lot of fun with that court system.
I imagine not. So she was just left in custody, and you never could get her again.
I believe they told me that they readopted her out. They courted me through getting her back, but then at the very last minute they pulled something on me that I didn't do something correctly, because they wanted her to be vaccinated, all these things. And so I was getting everything in order. And at the last minute, they told me that I was supposed to have a document in by a prior date or something. I can't remember exactly. I think it was a date. They pulled a date issue on me. And it was, like I said, to me, it felt corrupted. It didn't feel in integrity or above board to me. I've never had the resources to go back and address it, because I would need the resources to hire someone. So I just had to let her go. But I had my hands full, because she had had puppies. And so I had 7 of her puppies, and a few of them have been did get adopted out to really good people who still have them. And I'm still in touch. And then there were 3 that stayed with me. And then those 3 have ended up, because of the type of space I hold around them, I really didn't come into this as a dog owner at all. I really came into this as an activist, and I really came in service to the animals themselves. And so my authority really is in asking them what they need. And so I've lived with them that way, and really asking them what they needed. And I have ended up with a pack. So I now have, I actually now have 17 of them.
Wow. And they're from different mothers?
They are. There was Lomi, the daughter of Kuna, the red wolf. So she was half red wolf, half Newfoundland. And she has had some litters of pups. She had one litter that had 3 daughters, and then those 3 daughters ended up reproducing. Since then, 2 of the daughters got killed. One of them by a farmer who shot at all of the females when they went into a chicken pen. Again, I was in Mora at that time, and that was, it was a couple miles away from where we were. So for me, in some ways, I'm researching, I'm watching, I'm observing, I'm witnessing. My intention more than anything, like I said, is in service to the animals and then to watch and witness. So I do feel like, what I've witnessed is that the wolves are not safe really hardly anywhere unless they're in a fence, and they really don't like that very much.
Right. So, I know this is going to sound weird, but would it be wrong for you to get your own chickens and let them get in? Would that be a terrible thing?
That's our idea of what to do next. And then the other thing is, I do want to have a very conscious adoption program for veterans and people who have some wounds that they perhaps haven't been able to heal, that are psychological or heart-based or emotional, because these animals are so deep and soulful, and what their nature is. When they bond, I think, we've seen this. We did adopt 2 puppies out to a veteran man, and they were young enough that they really bonded with him. That was right before one of our evictions. And so once that eviction came in, part of why I have 17 of them is that I just have been running so fast just trying to keep them alive, and I haven't had time to do any adoptions. So that's why I have them all. I really am just caring for them for the most part. I'm open to different things other than anything that hurts them, of course.
Yeah, because it seems like they get in trouble a lot for eating chickens, and you could probably go to like and get your own and have them free range around your spot, and then that way they could stay there and hunt on your property.
That is a great idea. That we just moved the animals from a pen that was right by a highway, and I lost 2 of them on that highway. And I also became aware that tons of elk and deer are dying on the highway every day, which is why the wolves were killed. They were chasing the animals, rabbits or elk and deer, to the highway. And there's not even a fence or anything to block the animals from, just getting killed on the highway. And to me, that seems dangerous for people as well.
Right.
So one of my goals is to bring awareness to this highway situation and create some sort of a barrier to stop some of that killing of wildlife, and as well protect the drivers.
Yeah, because an elk can really destroy your vehicle very quickly. A deer as well.
Yeah.
And I don't know about your puppies, but one of my saddest childhood memories are when I used to live in California. You would sometimes see coyotes sitting on the side of the road with their dead mate. So they mate for life. And so when when their mate is killed, sometimes they would commit suicide and just go ahead and get themselves hit too, because they don't mate anymore after that.
It's possible that Shiva, the boy, there was a girl dog that was a white wolf, beautiful white wolf, that had mothered one litter of puppies, and she got killed on the highway. And then her mate then followed very soon after, and those are the two bigger ones that I lost. They were somewhat of a pair at that point.
Right. So wolves and coyotes, they mate for life, and in a typical pack situation, only the alpha male and female will reproduce, and the entire rest of the pack raises those pups. And that's what I mean about a complex social structure, is that their entire social structure, a regular wolf pack out in the wild, is completely and totally dedicated to the next generation. The entire pack raises the next generation. So that's pretty interesting, right there, that they're in such danger, because chickens, are more important than, a farmer's chicken is more important. When it's their responsibility to make sure their chickens eat. I'm getting some feedback from PIR. So it's their responsibility, but yet the life of a wolf or a dog or wolf dog that's just doing what they do naturally, which is they're predators and they're going to eat something, that is somehow not allowed. But we can take over everything, the whole country, all the land, and what do we expect for these animals to do? Disappear?
Right, and I didn't expect to keep this many animals. It's sort of, like I said, it's happened as a result of just trying to keep them alive and then having to move so much. However, as a result of it, we are getting to witness the pack dynamics and the interesting relationship, and I've been really studying their behaviors, and it's been just magnificent, actually, because of the amount of love and care that they exchange back and forth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We also, me and my husband also rescue animals. And it's not the thing that you sit down one day and you're like, I'm going to start rescuing animals. It's not, it just happens, These animals just come to you and they depend on you, and you're the one there that can help them, and then you fall in love with them, and that's just how it is.
Yes.
Yeah. So we have a pack situation, even though we have actually more cats than we do dogs. But we got the dogs. We have two that are brothers. We got them when they were 2 months old. And so when we brought them into the house, the cats actually, taught them, you don't mess with us. We're in charge here. So so they don't. And we taught them not to chase the cats or, be mean, that they're actually we're all the same family. We're all the same pack. And they don't even chase their feral cats that we feed, the completely wild ones that are outside. Yeah, it's a pretty harmonious situation, which can only be created when you have this stable place to create that harmony and that stability that leads to harmony. And it seems like you're in a situation where the animal control is out to get you, and you're trying to find a safe place for you and this pack of wolf puppies.
Yes, that was my experience in Mount Shasta. And then I was in Boulder for 1 year, and I had one really bad neighbor in 4 Mile Canyon that didn't like the animals. And so he ended up bringing animal control out enough, and I would have gone to jail for 90 days if there had been one more neighbor complaint. And this was in a high wilderness area in the foothills, so an area where there's fires and floods and really big nature. But there was one man with a yard in the canyon. So it's kind of, to me, that's a very funny scenario, to have a human being in the middle of the wilderness trying to have like a domestic yard.
It's insane.
So I and then getting upset if a wild animal comes, and crosses the yard. So I almost want to make a comedy out of this type of situation on behalf of the wolves and the wildlife.
Yeah, I mean, the satire is ripe here. You could really do something with that. Because you talk about somebody in the middle of the wilderness trying to create this situation where they have control over everything, and they probably uses like Roundup on his weeds, on his just trying to control the uncontrollable is it just seems a little bit crazy.
Yes, and I did just find out today that we're going to have to move from our current location, which I was going to have to leave at the end of the summer anyway, because there's no roads in the winter. It's a summer location in the middle of a national forest, so I thought we might be okay, but the man who owns the property in the middle of the national forest did sell a tiny piece of it to some neighbors who built this little adobe fairy place, and they're from Nebraska or Tennessee or somewhere, and they come to it like 3 times a year. And so when they came, we had just arrived 2 days before, so I hadn't gotten the fence built yet, and the animals were running, which I always just pray, and they were so happy because they hadn't really been able to run. But these neighbors are unhappy about them, and so I think the owner, because he sold the land to these people, he's asked us to leave now by the 25th of the month. So once again, we are on the move, and I just found out literally like 15 minutes before this radio show.
Wow.
But I've learned to let go of attachment over and over from the past. I was starting to think this was going to work because I thought the neighbors were okay. But it usually comes in a roundabout way. Like, nobody has talked to me. I just got a text from my partner with the wolves, who amazingly really sits with them and sits by them when I have to go away, so that they're never alone. There's always a person kind of anchoring the home base, so they know where they are. It is a little wild for us because we are managing them and they keep growing. So now we let them out of the truck at this location and they're comfortable, and they all come and sleep on the porch and sleep near us. But I don't know if they're going to let us, pick them up and put them in a truck again.
Right. They're
So
like,
yeah. So that's going to be a trick, but I guess we'll work it out with the bones or something.
Yeah, a little steak. Throw that in the car. And they'll jump in after it. Wow, that must be hard though to move so frequently.
The puppies are pretty wild. They're the elders are very friendly and used to humans, and they're friendly with cats. We've done the same thing. Our cats are like wolf tamers. But the puppies are, if the cat jumps out, and those puppies will chase the cat to the tree, and the cat runs up the tree. The pack of puppies that's now close to 9-10 months, they're like half domestic, half wild. They're really almost more wild because we've given them the space to really be kind of with nature wherever we were to the best of our ability, and they've, to some degree, sort of hidden from humans, even us at times. So I feel like, I'm being asked to transport a half-wild pack that isn't even really hard. Like, I don't know how much control I have, but I guess it's an interesting thing. I have people wanting me to control and dominate and do things to these animals, all the time. And it's not my way to invade or implement upon them unless, they need it for some reason. Like, if it's like, of course I treat them all naturopathically, but I treat them, immediately if anything happens. And so I do address things, but I really like to be as uninvasive as possible and as gentle and caring about how I do that as possible so that they feel that they really are being cared for from their perspective.
Mm-hmm. So when you get to the point where you want to start adopting some of these in the pack out, what are you looking for in terms of homes? What type of home are you looking for to adopt these animals?
I used to really look for, someone who has a yard or who at least goes to the wilderness frequently on hikes or something. At this point, because of what I've lived through, my first goal is just simply the bond between the animal and the human. So if there's a bond there and that person is going to take care of that animal like a child, like they're, bonded and going to take it everywhere they go, then it's a good match. And if the dog feels safe and comfortable and the bond feels solid, then I've actually become more lenient as far as circumstances, because to me that bond is really the most important. And these animals have shown me that they can go anywhere. They come with me in the car into the city and they look at the city and they look at me like, oh my gosh, what is this?
Wow.
They are just amazed at the city.
And they travel, like our dogs just vomit instantly. The moment we put them in a vehicle, there's vomit everywhere.
Oh my goodness. Well, actually, because of my situation, because I had to keep moving so much, my car became the den for my bigger wolves. And so they're so comfortable. They're more comfortable in the car almost than anywhere because they know it's their base. And then they've really incredibly gotten used to the car moving around from nature spot to nature spot. So the big ones are very well trained. I can drive up to a mountain or a nature spot and open the door and let them out, and they'll run happily and wildly as much as they want, and then they come back when they're ready. And if it's really cold, I can sit in the car and write with the heat on, and they'll just run, for 2 hours, and then they'll come back when they're done and get back in the car.
Wow. That is a bond. That's definitely a bond going on there. And the same for our dogs, like we tried to put collars on them even, and they chewed them off of each other. We can't keep a collar on them. They don't know what to do with the leash. They've always run free since we got them. They've been able to run free on our property.
The mother red wolf. Yes, the mother red wolf was like that, and the puppies act like that at the beginning. My bigger wolf dogs and some of the puppies haven't really learned yet, but they are watching. And what happened was the bigger wolf dogs would look out the window and see people walking their dogs on leashes. And so the bigger dogs eventually learned that it was just part of the game, like that they wore collars and leashes so that they could be in the city, and that all the other dogs did too. And they're fascinated by it. Like I see them looking out the window. At the beginning, they were just fascinated by people and their dogs walking on leashes. They would stare at them like, wow. And I would see them, staring at them. And then after watching and seeing, now they like the leash and the collar because it's like our bond. They see that it's what happens in the city.
And keeps them with you.
Yeah, and they understand that, like I said, I drive them up to the national forest and I open the door and they run free. But they understand that when we're down in the city that we put leashes on. And so they're so smart that they just play the game. They could easily break out of their leashes and their collars, and they could easily chew them off. And they used to do that when they were younger. So it's purely out of respect and choice that they stay with me or on their collars or leashes. It's totally out of cooperation.
Mm-hmm. So how big are these puppies now? How old are they?
I think they're about 10 months or 11 months old.
Mm-hmm. So still a lot of growing to do.
Still a lot of growing, and they're pretty big. So they definitely, some of the big boys look like, they're getting big. They're beautiful. Many of them are white wolves. The red wolf mother, I believe somewhere in her lineage there must have been a pure white wolf, because in our puppies we see these pure white wolves, and every part of the lineage seems to come out. But it is definitely a red wolf dog mix. One of my feelings has been, even though people really, think that there's a lot of dogs that need to be adopted out, these animals are so different and unique from other dogs. They really are their own lineage of creature that is part red wolf, that has this very passionate, fiery, loving spirit in it. And so I wouldn't want to not allow these animals to reproduce just because there are lots of other dogs of other kinds, because this is such a pure force of nature that comes through them. It's such a passionate, loving, powerful force that they reproduce, that comes through them.
So, do you have a mating pair in this pack, or are they all sort of mating if they want to, or what? What's the deal there?
I do. There are two of the children of Kuna have bonded, and they did have puppies. And so those, I had two males and one female. One of those males is one of the ones that got killed on the highway just recently. I think, I had to mourn, and really, I think I'm okay now. I think they may even reincarnate. So I think a lot of these spirits will come back if they do leave. But, so I do have a female and a male that are the alpha female, the alpha male, that were the original children of Kuna. Mm-hmm. They also just are really wise and really loving with the puppies. And so the puppies respect them. Most of the puppies are not from Lomi. She's their grandmother. Lomi is the name of the alpha female. So she's the grandmother of most of these puppies, but they treat her, she's an alpha female, and she teaches them more than her daughter, their mother, taught them. She really takes on the role of the mother, and her daughters, I think of them as teens, even though they're like 2 years old. I only have one of those left now, Nova. So she's one of the mothers of the puppies. And then her mother, Lomi, is the alpha female. And so we do have a little bit of a pack structure, and the big half red wolf male is really the alpha male, and the half red wolf female is the alpha female. And I really see that as a result of their intelligence and their piercing consciousness. They're just extremely powerful in their telepathy, in their knowledge and wisdom, in knowing what they want. I feel extremely honored that they bond with me and that they're willing to cooperate with me so much.
You're their link to navigating the human world.
Yes.
That has impacted them so greatly. But they seem pretty tame. I mean, other than eating chickens, they're pretty tame. They haven't bitten any people, right?
No, they would never bite people, especially not the older ones. I did have one mother bite someone who walked too close to her puppy pack. He was carrying a couch when we were living out at another place, and just walked right by, and she did come out and bite his ankle. So that happened once. She was protecting her young, and that particular creature had not really been around humans hardly at all. She's now way more friendly. She wouldn't probably bite anybody now. That was about a year ago. So, I would say don't ever go too close to a mother's den.
Right. Absolutely. Oh.
She didn't bite him, too hard. It wasn't like, she didn't take any of his skin or anything like that. She just kind of let him know.
Like a nip. Nip.
Yeah, she just nipped him.
Okay.
But it scared me for sure.
Oh yeah, and it's hard to get out of that sort of loop. Like if you have a dog that's a biter, and bite someone, then you always think they're going to bite somebody. And so it's really hard to get out of because they sense your fear. And so then they bite again because you're afraid they're going to bite. It's a loop that's really hard to get out of.
Luckily, she's not like that. It was a mother thing. So she's gotten more friendly with people now. I've really, over time, she's now very friendly. So unless she had puppies again, I don't think she would bite anybody.
So they're socialized with humans, and the only thing they've really done is eaten chicken. So I think that's workable situation for you. Definitely. It would be great if you could have a bigger, wilder spot where they could settle down a little bit. But it seems like you've made the best of this situation. How can people find out more and help you continue to care for these animals that need your care?
I think the best place is a GoFundMe campaign I have up that's just gofundme.com/wolfheart. So you can always just search Wolfheart, and it's Heart of a Wolf Sanctuary.
Okay.
Our goal is to have a B&B. I've had it before in Boulder. In fact, I had a B&B where we were, so people could actually come and stay with us and stay with the wolves. So that is my goal. We're going to have to find a next location here, and then I hope that it can be a place where whoever wants to come can come and visit. And then that's how adoptions can happen as well, is that because the bonding needs to have a minute to take place. And so it would be great if someone who's interested could come and stay nearby and develop a relationship.
So even if there are listeners out there that maybe have space or land that they need a caretaker, something like that would be great. A great situation for you guys. And I hate to see you have to relocate so quickly after you just relocated, but maybe it's, maybe you're going to find a better spot. So, and because the place where you are now, is that where the road is at that you're talking about? No. Okay.
No, I got them off the road to get to this place. And so I am grateful just to have gotten them off the road. It's like, I'm grateful for this place no matter how long we're here, because I was able to get them off the road. They're safer. They were able to run. They have been so happy running. They hadn't really been able to run for about a year because they had been from one pen to another pen, and they even spent 2 weeks inside of Animal Control's rehabilitation area because there was a 2-week time period where I had to move really quickly and I didn't have a place to put them. So the animal shelter in Santa Fe has been absolutely great. I have not had trouble with Animal Control in Santa Fe or in New Mexico. New Mexico has actually been one of the kindest animal controls that I've dealt with, and they've been helpful, actually. So I have no complaints about that.
There are so many animals that need care that sometimes it's difficult to see where animal control is coming from when you have people who are really trying to provide a life for these animals, and they're getting met with fines and the animals taken away, at every turn when you're really trying to do the right thing. There is disagreement. I would say there's controversy in terms of spaying and neutering. Your typical animal rescue person is like, yeah, we need to spay and neuter all these animals, but you have a situation where these are wolf hybrids. You might not want to spay and neuter all of them, or you might not even be able to spay and neuter all of those animals. It's like a control mechanism that probably is pretty unkind in some respects.
I have been talking with other wolf sanctuary owners about this, and it's an area that I'm studying. It appears that many wolf sanctuaries have a lot of dysfunction when they try to stop the wolves from reproducing, whether through spaying and neutering or by keeping them in separate pens, which I thought I was going to do. as a kinder way. And what these sanctuary owners say is that the wolves will sometimes almost kill themselves to try to get to the female, and vice versa. And that there's psychological disorders that develop if they're not allowed to reproduce. It seems like the rescue sanctuaries that have put together wolf families from rescued animals, that to some degree or another, there's always different dysfunctions, illnesses, psychological disorders that come as a result of them not just being able to have their natural way of life with their pack, where they're able to reproduce and have their natural way of being. It appears to me that when they're not given that there are all kinds of dysfunctions that develop.
Mm-hmm. So what would an example of a dysfunction develop be like? What would you notice in an animal that's developed a dysfunction because of it?
An example is the owner of Mission Wolf that's in southern Colorado told me that he had two different females who they hadn't been able to get pregnant because of, I can't remember his birth control method for these two females, but they so wanted to have babies that they started scratching their bellies and like nursing on themselves, and they scratched their bellies raw because they were so kind of upset that they couldn't mother their own young.
That instinct to mother is so strong that they just sort of went crazy. Wow. But so
I think we can compare it to human beings. Like what if someone said that no American women were allowed to have children because we had too many children in Africa, and that women, instead of having their own babies, they just needed to go adopt African children instead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, as someone who had a child late in life, I know that the biological clock is very real and very strong and very influential over your mindset when you really want that baby. It's all you want in your life. So I can only imagine how that is for animals as well. It must be very, very difficult. And sad. It kind of makes me sad to think about it, actually. And really that mindset, translates really into for poor people as well. Like, poor people don't have a right to have children because they're poor, and so it's gross. It's really all I'm going to say about that. It's gross.
So I feel that what I'm doing is hosting a healthy pack of animals that are happy, at least as happy as they can be. Obviously they'd be happier if they had habitat that was their own and that they didn't have to be moved all the time. But to the best of my ability, they're intact. That's a word that I learned in shamanism, actually, with Martine Prechtel, is that as beings, in fact, we've been fragmented, and that our soul is fragmented, and that what we're seeking is intactness and wholeness. Mm-hmm. So I feel like I'm offering that or hosting that, or, that's the sanctuary, is that these animals are offered, to not be invaded, to just be allowed to do what they would do to the best of my ability, just allowance, like allowing, as God would do by providing a planet.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then I'll deal with the troubles. If there's troubles with the human beings, then I'm having to deal with them. I'm the buffer that faces the people who would have issues with them as a pack and says, yes, this is their family, this is their pack. And I do my best to take care of the neighbors or do whatever I can. So I don't know how well I'm doing. It's probably an area I need to improve.
Well, yeah, and then the attitude of the neighbors is like, my chicken is more important than your wolves. So I'm kind of partial to that idea of mine of getting your own free-range chickens, because they obviously need to hunt as well as need to become parents and mother and things like that. They just need to hunt.
Yes.
Because they're predators.
It's a good idea. We were just talking about that, rabbits and chickens.
Mm-hmm.
So we that is a goal. As soon as we land and they have a fenced ranch or area, definitely we'll be creating our own little eco-farming system. And the eco-farming model has the predator species at the top, and they're responsible for moving the hoofed animals, and it keeps the water healthy. Because without the predator species and the wolves, the hoofed animals just sit in the water locations for too long and they pollute them.
Mm-hmm.
And so the predators move them around the land and keep them moving.
And they're needed. And we can see in areas where the wolf population has been destroyed, this has damaging effects on the entire environment because that environment needs the wolf population.
Yes, and that is why it happens, is that the people don't realize that those wolves keep those animals moving, and that really makes a big difference. And then they also dig up all kinds of things that are decaying. They love to dig up fungus, and so I think they really move the decay around as well. And they probably, regenerate the soil.
Right. Yeah. No doubt. So your water supply that you have right now for them, is there a natural water source for them, or are you having to provide a water source?
There is not. This is not an ideal location. Like I said, they're safe, and so it's an ideal location for that reason, for right this minute. But for the long term, it's not an ideal location. So I'm not so upset that we have to move because it's just not ideal anyway. We're just harvesting rainwater off the roofs of these off-grid structures. One is an incomplete house, and the other is just this little cabin. And so just the water off the roof goes into these 500-gallon tanks. And it's pretty clean water. So we're feeding that, and then I treat it with homeopathic, anti-parasite deworming medicine. So that's what I'm watering them with right now. So it's not a permanent, long-term situation. It really was kind of a temporary get them off the highway quickly. This was the first place that I found that would work, that I could do.
But that's not bad though either. I mean, the thing about wolves and dogs and stuff is they really need a lot of water, and you don't realize that until you get these big giant dogs that just drink water all day long.
They really so much water.
They do.
They drink a lot of water.
So that's actually a pretty clever method, and I like the idea of your sanctuary being off grid. I like that a lot. So hopefully the next place is an even more perfect situation where you can have some sort of off grid existence where you're not plugged into the powers that be, so to speak. This is sort of a Shangri-La of sorts, a wolf Shangri-La of sorts. Yeah,
I think that's what this place did for me. Is it taught me how to do it. It showed me that I could do it, and that not only that, but I love it and I want to do it. So I think that's been the purpose of this place.
Right. So you're there for another month or so, and then you have to find another space.
It looks like, another 20 days or so.
Okay.
At least that's what we're saying. Often the landlord will say, you have to be out by this date. And, it just has happened to us that sometimes we can be out by that date and sometimes we can't. So it all depends on, do I have another location? Do I have a vehicle that I can load them in? And do I have literally the money to rent the vehicle and the money for gas? And so I've had to sometimes just wait a couple days or a week until that manifested.
Yeah, that's tough. So are you planning on are you in Arizona right now, or?
We're in New Mexico, and I really love the area. But I'm open. We really need a property more than a specific location, although I like the animal control in New Mexico is fairly friendly, so I do like that aspect.
Okay. So people out there listening who maybe know of a property or a way to get these animals into a safe location, please look up Heart of a Wolf Sanctuary. It's a good project, and these animals deserve a life where they're not being followed and stalked and hunted and taken away for eating a chicken. I mean, can you imagine? I mean, that it would be nice if you had a big, maybe like my husband just messaged me. He said an old school bus or something where you could pile them all on there and get to your next place.
Yes. And I do have a strong opinion about the bonding between humans and wild animals. I actually think it's an important thing at this time because so many wild animals don't have habitat, and because humans have basically moved in everywhere. There's some sanctuary people believe that they have this opinion that, people shouldn't have wolves, or people shouldn't have wolf dogs, or people shouldn't have, wild animals. And my opinion is 180 degrees the opposite, because if we're going to inhabit all of the wilderness, then we better get comfortable with our wild creatures living in our yards and right next door and so to speak, having them, because otherwise they don't have anywhere to be other than in a zoo. So right. I'm not one who says, I'm somebody who actually believes in the bond between wolves and people and believes that it's a strong bond and a healthy one.
And it's a very old one, too, and a very storied bond as well. And that whole idea of, humans shouldn't interfere and things like that, I get it. But at the same time, I think it also comes from the idea that we as humans are separate from nature, which we're not. We're part of nature. So, and
it might come from an idea that there's any other habitat. I guess I can imagine that idea if there was a ton of wild habitat where they could be without humans, but that just isn't the case anymore.
Right. And we, at our place, it's a bird sanctuary because we're right by a creek, and it's like a major place where all the birds migrate through. And we have that same attitude, and as we've been enhancing the bird population, we plant pollinator gardens and songbird gardens every year. We get more and more and more, and I think it is also important to be a part of nature, to think of yourself as a part of nature, and to interact with wild animals. We're so used to thinking of ourselves as separate, either better than or less than. It doesn't really matter. We're part of it, and we learn a lot just by watching what animals do and how they interact. I've learned a lot just by watching the birds. I learned a lot about them. So, sanctuary, Heart of a Wolf Sanctuary. Find Azlan White on Facebook. Check out her story and the story of these beautiful animals that need you to help them.
Yes, and I would love to give my email address as well.
Okay.
So that anyone can contact me, either to come and visit or to help or just to be a part of what we're doing. And that's my name. It's Azlan White at Gmail. And the way you spell Azlan is with a Z, so it's A as in apple, Z as in zebra, L-A-N, Azlan White.
At gmail.com?
At gmail.com.
Okay, great. We're just about to leave, and I'm really, really, really glad that you made it onto the show. And please keep in touch. We're always here for you to help out. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, and good luck to the water work. And I do believe that the wolf pack, is a good model for tribal interactions because of the level of care. And it's just been magnificent to see them in a pack.
Thank you, and thanks everybody for listening, and tune in next week.